Is anything bigger than infinity? Well, no, and I'll tell you why. Think about it. Infinity, meaning a never-ending sequence. It's not necessarily a number itself, but it's more of a concept. And this concept means that something is extended on for eternity, literally with no ending. There is no number, it's numberless. And in this, something can reach infinite proportions. So some people propose that there are differing infinities. Well, in the sense that you can describe infinity between 0 and 1 as rational integers, and you have 0.1, 0.11, 0.101 all the way to 1. And this represents an infinite amount of numbers because within this sequence, you can represent a never-ending sequence of numbers. So this can reach infinity. However, then people pose the question, all right, you have another set of infinity. Let's say you have the numbers 2 to 3, and all the numbers in between 2 to 3, including 2 and 3 themselves. They say then, this is a different infinity. Now, it might seem that way at first, but after I explain infinity in a little bit more manageable terms, you will soon see why. As soon as something is able to reach the concept of infinity itself, then it is boundless. Literally, there's nothing more or greater than it could ever be. There is no subset of infinities, because as soon as something can reach a paradigm of never-ending eternal representation, literally you can represent all things, even if it's not given in the data set itself. Let me just remind people a little bit about a different language. There's a language called binary code, and in this language, all things can be represented with zeros and ones. You don't necessarily need the number 3 to represent the number 3. You only need zeros and ones. So let's imagine for a moment that we're literally only given a dot, but then we're told this dot can be represented an infinite amount of times. Literally, we can represent this dot in an infinite amount of ways. So this dot in itself, even though it's not necessarily a number sequence of 0 to 1, and it doesn't include 0 or 1 or even the notions of what numerals are, or an alphabetical system for that matter, using a dot in an infinite amount of ways, we could literally represent everything that could ever be within the universe itself. And not only that, everything that we could ever imagine. So as soon as something reaches the potential to become infinite, literally it has an infinite amount of possibilities. So it's limited to nothing, not even the series in which we utilize to represent infinity. So let's go back to our previous example. We said, all right, so let's look at the number series of 0 to 1. And, the numerals between 0 to 1 can reach infinity because there's literally an infinite amount of irrational numbers that we could show. And then somebody might say, all right, well, the set of integers and the parameters and conditions between 2 to 5 give us a much larger infinity than the parameters of 0 to 1. Well, that's not necessarily true, because as soon as we know that something can reach infinity, we know that even things outside of what it is represented as can actually be represented. So between 0 and 1, if you were to arrange these numerals represented in certain patterns, you could literally then represent everything that could ever be due to the fact that you have an infinite amount of things to do it with. So it's a mere matter of finding ways to arrange these things to represent things which aren't themselves included in the parameters. And that is a little bit of a sense about the immense proportions that affinity actually allows us to reach. And it's like, even if you only had a point, one dot, if you were given the opportunity to have this thing represented in an infinite amount of ways, then literally all things using one dot represented an infinite amount of times in certain patterns We could then represent all language that ever was, or any other thing. If we only had one integer or numeral such as 0, but we knew that we could utilize this an infinite amount of times, 0 repeated infinity. We could represent any numeral there ever was, even though we're only given 0, due to the fact that we have infinite amount of space to utilize this organization, which we can then represent anything which we weren't initially given, but due to the fact that we were given infinity, then it's boundless. And that's just a glimpse of the power of infinity. So, to infinity and beyond, folks. And as always, have a great day.